the Lego Land Rover model. The details are up on the screen. I really like this model, and we're just going to go over a few basic features and maybe just point out a few things that I find strange or interesting, or even questions that I might have about the build after having built it. So there's a kind of few beauty shots going up on the screen. That's fine. So let's have a look at the actual model here in kind of more of a hands-on mode. So if I take my Lego Jeep here, first thing you'll notice is it's probably one of the most aesthetically pleasing Lego Technic models I've seen in a very long time, if ever. I think this is mainly due to the nature of the actual car itself. It's just more of an angular design, so it suits itself. So if we take a kind of a look around the car here, this is the front of it. What have we got in the front? We've got the little toe thing. So if I lift the bonnet or the hood here, and if I just angle this more towards the camera, there's a little lever. There's a little lever here. Pop the little lever and then move the thing, which allows you to pull down your cord like this, and you can wind the cord using that once you pull back in the lever. Okay, so that's the engine block, as you can see here. So let me zoom in a little bit. So when you see the engine block, have it here once this thing stays up. It's quite nice, well-designed engine block, and that's 3 and 3, so it's a 6-cylinder engine there, and the cylinders do move up and down once I put it into gear. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Coming around here to the driver's side. So on the driver's side, we've got this nice door here. Okay, so the door is also one of my favorite parts actually of the build because of how well it looks. So if I just open this driver's side door here, you get a very nice smooth opening on the door. So a lot of this is down to this hinge mechanism here. This hinge mechanism really does give you a nice, you can see it kind of bending in there at the edge. This is what I'm talking about. This gives you a very nice sort of a resistive feel, for want of a better word, almost like an actual car engine bending in and out. So the door feels kind of stiff but rigid, much like when you lift a laptop screen, just kind of has that nice sort of resistance to it. Okay, got nice wing mirror details here on the side, which again, everything's a lot more bulkier and bigger than a standard Lego Technic car, but that's what you're paying for. On the inside here, we've got the seats. Okay, so the seats are another detail that I actually really like. If I can zoom in again, that's too much. So the seats are another detail that I really like here. You'll notice that they're actually quite chunky. Okay, there's actually a little bit of a build here in the seats. So moving on after the seats, then we come to the rear of the car. So in the rear of the car, before we get to the very back, we notice the following. So we have a little Land Rover kind of a utility box here, okay, and the box does open, and we have some space here if you want to store something. You can actually store a brick or two in there, so it's not too bad. Now, coming around to the very back of the car, we have the spare tire here on the back. So the spare tire is there, okay. What I like about this is when you rotate the tire, it actually is the locking mechanism for the little gate door on the back. Okay, now there is one slight modification to my Lego build here that I have done. It's this locking mechanism. So if I zoom in here, okay, so in this locking mechanism here, if you look at the instruction booklet, it actually tells you to put this elastic band here, I think going up onto the red one. Okay, if you use it going onto the red one, it's an incredibly flimsy lock and doesn't really hold it in place. Whilst if you just tension it back here to this other one, it gives you much more sort of firm lock in place, and it doesn't stretch the band all that much. So it's quite a nicer feature. And this kind of nice, once again, a really small little detail, but it's so nice. This smooth brick here allows it to push in past the door and kind of glide over and then just snap lock into place. So you can see that how the locking mechanism here is meant to work. So if I just push it in here, and then it should be able to snap lock like that. Okay, give it a little bit of force and then all the way around. Pull it in like this. And it's locked in place then. So it's quite nice. Coming around here then, if I zoom back out, coming around here to the passenger side of the car, we have the ladder staircase, which does drop down if you want to get up on top. And then we're here again at the driver's side I'm on at the moment, on the driver's side door like this. Okay, once again, nice opening mechanism. And if I can zoom in here to the to the driver door. Okay, so let me get this image frame like that, so you can get a good view of what's happening here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to actually like this a little bit better. So my hand is currently on the little top thing for moving the steering wheel, so you can actually see it moving there, and you can see the thing moving down here. Okay, it's quite a nice mechanism. If I zoom out, you'll see what I'm doing here. Just moving this thing, and you can see the steering wheel moving in concert as well. Okay, so if we move up to the top of the vehicle then, I'm going to zoom out. So if we move up to the top of the vehicle here, we have the two tracks. If you want to get yourself out of quicksand or whatever it happens to be, they lock into place like this. And there's also a little case up on the top, and it has something or other that could fit in there as well. So it's quite a nice model overall. I really like it. A very enjoyable and not a trivial build either. Okay. Now, the kind of bit that I think is the main selling point for this Lego Technic model is the gearbox and how this all works. So if we go back in here to the car again, on the front side, you can see the gearbox stuff in here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and let's have a look at these things. Okay, so we'll go back to looking at the engine block when it's driving. So I've got it opened up here again. We can see all the pistons. Now currently I have the car in the following configuration. So kind of hard to see here, but it's in reverse, and I think it should be in low, and I've set the wheel roughly to the middle position there, which kind of tensions it up, I think. So if I put this car going, so you can see there some of the pistons move up and down. I haven't got a lot of room to drive this back and forth here. Okay, now my main complaint about the model is for this point here. I have other Technic models that have engine blocks like this, none quite as complicated as this gearing system. They all work an awful lot better than this car. Maybe I've built it wrong, maybe I haven't done everything exactly right, or everything isn't tensioned up right. But I find the piston action in the gearbox incredibly weak given the rest of the quality of the car. It's almost like they tried to cram too much in with the whole gearbox high and low thing, which I've never seen before. But in this case, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to really work all that well. You either need to get the car up to quite a high speed, which is not really practical if you're just on your kitchen floor or something pushing it, but you can't really see the engine at this stage. So it really doesn't come across well. And the high and low gearing thing, I've tried it out. Maybe there's a difference. You can kind of notice it, but really you kind of have to, you'd never notice it from just driving it. You really have to know which one you put it into, and then, okay, you can maybe tell a certain difference. So it's quite a kind of a downer point in the vehicle. It's one of the very few Technic models where it looks better when it's not doing anything, rather than when it's actually doing something. Okay, so that's my kind of major down point here on the model. But the engine assembly, as you can see, is lovely and complicated. Really does look the part, but unfortunately doesn't quite live up to the sort of standards that I've had from other Technic sets in the past. Overall though, quite an enjoyable build, and it's one of the best looking builds I've ever seen really in Technic in an awful long time. Overall, I would recommend the vehicle, but more as a showcase vehicle rather than an actual driving vehicle, if that's what you're looking for in a Lego Technic set.